I'm hoping this is the last part of this project. We're going to replace the battery. Now there are two batteries on the SY99, which I didn't realise. I thought there was only one battery, but there's a battery there, and then probably off camera, you can't see it because of the way the overhead is in. There's another battery there. Not quite sure why there are two batteries. I do wonder whether this is whether there's an FM board and an AWM board, whether that's the reason why there's two batteries. But that was a little bit of a surprise to me. So it looks like we're going to do two new batteries, that one and that one. Let's get cracking. Okay, the game plan is very simple. I don't really want to have to disconnect the boards and take them out completely. So what I'm going to try and do is very simply disconnect the board on this side, because these two connectors are already disconnected. So it's only that connector I need to disconnect, and then gently fold it over so I can get to the solder points to desolder that battery. And then I'm going to try and do something very similar on this one, which is disconnect the connectors on this edge of the board and then fold that over as well to get to that battery as well. But I also need to look at the connections of these batteries, because I've got a very horrible feeling that, like the SY77, the distance between the two battery points is going to be smaller than the caddies that I'm going to replace them with. So there's the caddy. So the distance between those two pins, I suspect, is going to be greater than the distance between the pins there. We'll find that out in a minute. So time to switch the soldering irons back on and get cracking on getting to this battery and getting it out first. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. So as I said, my game strategy here is to fold that board over, and I want something to put it on, so I'm just going to go and find something just to put there. Hoping that will do the trick. So if I disconnect this connector, it should just come straight up like that, which it does. And then with a little bit of luck, I can pull that forward, pull it back and fold it over like that. That is going to be my battery points. And as feared, let me just make sure this is in focus. That's about 4 mil off. Let's get this battery off the board. So they weren't it wasn't coming off. So what I've done is I've just snipped them off, so I can then get a pair of pliers behind to get the stub out. It's a problem with these little battery holes. Quite often you struggle to get the hole cleared. Well, that took longer to get the solder out of the holes, but it's now done. So I'm just going to give this a bit of clean up with some isopropyl alcohol off camera, and then we've got to deal with the fact that the case, the caddy for the new battery, is bigger than the caddy for the old battery. So we'll do that in a minute. I'm just going to go and get some cloth for the isopropyl alcohol. Back in a sec. Not quite sure what happened there, but the camera seemed to shut off. So now I just need to get that jumper cable onto that terminal. Making sure that terminal is fully through. Well, not the prettiest soldering job ever, but it will do the trick. So now the question is it okay? So let's get a battery. Okay, so we're getting 3.2 volts. Between there and there. We turn that back over. Take that point there. There. We are getting 3.2 volts. Great. So that battery is now installed. I'm going to actually now fit this cord back into here. We're now finished with that piece of work. Now I've just noticed something. I hadn't noticed this before, in that the 0 volt line on this machine is tag to the chassis, and I've just earthed the chassis. That means I've created a voltage leak, potential for the battery to drain down. So what I'm going to have to do before I get going with this is I'm going to have to get rid of that connection there. Otherwise that battery will drain down rapido. Okay, you learn something new every day, but yeah, that's not a great idea. So I'm going to put this board back in. For those wondering what I am doing now, the screw that has been nicely hanging on to the end of this tag here has just dropped into the machine. Okay, so that's battery 1 in, and before I forget I'm going to unearth this. Right, so that's board 1 sorted out. Move the keyboard along. I'm hoping I can get away with doing the same thing as I did with board 1, which is disconnect the cables this end and fold the board over so I can get to the terminals of this battery. Let's give that a go. So I'm hoping that there's 3 connectors need to be taken off. There's this one here. And there's this one here. And this ribbon cable comes out and goes over there. That's the disk drive. And this ribbon cable here comes off like so. Now, with all the cables disconnected from that end, can we do the same? And the answer is we can. Now this battery is going to be a bit more difficult because, I don't know where this is coming across, but the trace is actually at an angle. So that's the battery terminals, but the trace itself for that one needs to come down. Okay, let's do the same thing again. Let's get the battery out. Okay, so that's the positive end, that's the negative. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing as I did on this one. I'm just going to switch the cameras off and I'm going to mark this out so I can drill it out properly. So off camera, because I thought it was just faster doing it that way, and I forgot to switch the camera on. What I've done is, you see here, I have drilled out I've marked out and drilled a small hole there on the 0 volt trace and the positive trace there. I've also, where have I put it? Created a piece of wire to connect the two, just to make sure there's a good connection. So what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to solder in the positive terminal. Just like that. And then I'm going to solder in this jumper wire. Just like that. I learnt my mistake on the other one. Making that wire too short. Now I'm going to solder in the negative terminal. So now we put a new battery in and see if we get 3.2 volts. Right, so we are getting 3.2 volts, good. So that's the second battery in. So now, like with the first board, I'm going to secure the second board in place. Now we just need to reconnect the cables that I undid. So this one goes in here. This one goes in there. Floppy drive cable goes into there. And that one goes in like so. This cable goes in there. And that's the batteries changed. Bit more work than I thought it was. Now I need to reconnect the keyboard, which is that one in there, like so, and that one in there. Again like so. That's now all down. And I think we're ready to put the case back on. So I'm just going to give it one more inspection to make sure I haven't missed any connections like I did on the SY77 when I tried to put that back together and realised that I actually hadn't connected the transformer back to the power board. Schoolboy error. But this one, I think I've reconnected everything. I just need to make sure that there's nothing left unconnected. That goes in there, like so. And then under that, like so. Goes down there. I think we're ready to put it back together. So next time you see this, it will be on the bench for testing. But that's all the project bits done. And I'm obviously not going to show you how to put the back on because you saw me take it off. So it's just doing it in reverse. But that is all the projects on this SY99 done. And with a bit of luck, it will fire up. I always say that because it's always trepidation. Whenever you do a project on a keyboard, and admittedly, I'm as careful as I can be when I'm working inside a keyboard, but there's always, like the S50 project. The S50 project went horrendously wrong, and hopefully I've got the parts now to fix it, so the S50 project will be resurrected soon. But on this particular project, I think we're done. Great stuff. And for those that were wondering, did the batteries actually need changing? Here are the two batteries. Here's my multimeter. So battery number 1, 2.8 volts. Borderline would have needed changing pretty soon. Battery number 2, 3 volts. So given that a new battery is 3.2 volts, that was 2 would have been, well, would have needed changing before too long. So yes is the answer. The batteries did need changing.